Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fab Fatties, or in this case, the four Fab Fatties. We still have two more episodes with four of them. Um, Reaction. So, one, I just want to say real quick, I'm very sorry about the short J-Bay um video last week. I don't know what happened, and I'm gonna hope that everything goes well with this recording. But the good news is that I'm on spring break, so if things don't go so super well with this recording, I can re-record it, and I'll actually have time to. So for today, though, we're going to be reacting to the second part of podcast episode 8, Edie Looks Like Me, because they had some ridiculous takes last time, and I want to explore this a little bit more. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it.
So make it make sense. So I using that like the make it make sense, right? I know something that we can all really relate to, and I think our big listeners can relate to as well. Is I did not look for my eating disorder. I didn't.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, I didn't look in the mirror and say, "Wow, I hate my body so much that I'm going to stop eating food."
Okay.
That's not what happened for me. Yeah, I hated my body. Yeah, I thought it was my fault. Yes, I dieted. Yes, I exercised. But every single medical provider I saw, it was always eat less, exercise more. Every single year. So you know what I did? I ate less and I exercised more. Not once in my 29 years has a doctor ever asked me, "What are you eating?"
Because they just assume, because it fits their narrative, that you're naturally eating a lot.
Yeah.
Because why would they ask you?
So all I did was stop eating. It got to the point, eat less. Okay. I'll eat less.
You're like, challenge accepted.
I'm like, okay. And then, of course, you start living in this place of hunger, and like the eating disorder thrives on that. My eating disorder loves when I'm hungry. Like that empty feeling in your stomach where you're rumbling. It's so bad. Like you should have already ate food at that point. But like I am like, oh yeah, like give me more of that. Because if you're hungry.
So don't get me wrong, I do want to honor the fact that taking pride in being hungry is like the mental disordered eating thing. I do want to say though that I don't think reaching that point is like a bad thing. I think to a certain extent you should be reaching that point where you are like you have that empty feeling and stuff before you eat, because like it's warranted at that point. That's your body telling you, hey, I'm hungry, I need to eat. At the same time, I don't think ignoring that for a little while is inherently bad. And I'm gonna, you know, the reason why this might seem like common sense for a lot of people, but these guys take things like super they take them in absolutes. They take them like super far, and I do just want to say that if you get to the point where yes, you do have the rumbling in your stomach, and yes, you are clearly very hungry and you choose not to eat, that's not inherently a bad thing. And I want to hammer home on that, because there's a difference between being like, I'm hungry and I don't want to deal with it right now, I'll eat in a little bit, or if you're kind of like me where you're like, it's not time to eat yet. I'm trying to get into the mode where I have like certain set times that I eat, because that's easier for me to manage. I'm not doing great at it right now, but it is something that I'm trying to move towards, of like I eat at this time, and this time. Simply to kind of it I found that my body thrives on regulation and routine. So if I order the times that I eat, it helps me stay in control of my calories. It helps me monitor what I'm actually eating. And the exception would be if I'm having like some serious physical manifestations of that hunger. For the most part though, like just being having just some discomfort um because you're hungry isn't enough for necessarily to go eat, especially if I'm in the middle of something. That's another thing. Like it's not inherently disordered eating to go there. And like, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a teenager and I was going to anime conventions and shit, I did not want to stop and wait 45 fucking minutes in line to get like meat, cheese, and the few leftover veggies from the Subway because they were always out of bread. But the first night they were fucking out of bread. There was no bread for you. So you were paying full price for a sub when you were just getting like such a shit slapped into a wrapper. Anyway, like if you're taking that hunger as a source of pride, that is an issue. To ignore that sense of hunger or to continuously get to that point of hunger, I don't think is inherently bad. I think that there's some nuance that has to happen around that. It is getting to that point bad for any medical conditions that you have, diabetes or whatever it may be, then that's an issue. Is it something that you take pride in? That is an issue. Do you push past the point not only when you're feeling hungry but when you're feeling other physical manifestations, which is for me at least is brain fog, shakiness, and dizziness. If you're reaching those points, then it don't keep pushing past it, like eat something for sure. That tends to be my like I carry like an emergency protein bar on me because I'm someone that does not want to be interrupted while I'm doing something. And so when I do have that initial like rumbling empty sensation of hunger, I do ignore it a lot of the time, not all the time. But if I'm out doing something, I will ignore it. And sometimes I ignore it to the point of a sudden realization that, oh, I'm dizzy and shaky and yeah, I should be eating something. And then I eat something. I don't really recommend getting to that point, but I think if you're to the point of the emptiness and the rumbling hunger, it's not inherently bad to one consistently get to that point. I think that's fine. And two, even push past that a little bit until you're ready to stop whatever you're doing and eat, or until you get a chance to eat. Like, I don't think it's something that you have to overly prioritize once you reach that state. It's something to acknowledge. Okay, I'm clearly getting hungry. I should be thinking about food relatively soon. But if you just live with that hunger for a little bit, I genuinely don't think that that's a huge red flag sort of issue. It's the taking pride in it that I think is where the disordered eating component comes in more.
Your body is burning the fat it already has.
Air quotes.
Air quotes. I'm learning. I'm learning. You know? So here we are. Here we are. For the first time in my life, in recovery, I finally had a medical provider ask me, so what do you eat?
Mm-hmm.
What do you eat? And
But
I said,
here's the thing that really gets me out of all
Please.
that. Like, you went through how many doctors and how many people questioned you about your weight, questioned you about your size, and how many people said, have you ever seen a dietitian? Not a doctor. Because we know doctors take how many nutrition classes?
one,
Yeah, exactly. So what makes you an expert in this field?
literally.
What gives you the right to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong without questioning it? And isn't the whole point of being a doctor to like dig in to get to a diagnosis and figure out like the root cause?
Well, that's okay. I want to throw in a couple of things in there. One, yes, so they take one nutrition class. I have like there's a difference though between a class that specializes in nutrition and a class that focuses on something else and might touch on nutrition. Like there are layers to that. Number 1. Number 2, regardless, they probably have more knowledge than you do. Just want to put that out there. 3, even if they don't, that's what referrals to nutritionists are for, and you can 100% ask for that. 4, I had a point, and it has escaped me for a minute. Oh, the dig in portion. So to actually find the diagnosis, well, the way I've noticed medicine works, and if any of you have like experience in the medical field, please feel free to correct me. But the way I understand that medicine works is that they rule out the most likely causes first. The most likely cause is that you are overeating, and if she is not expressing any other symptoms or anything like that, then they are simply going off the morbid obesity factor, which would suggest, and in all honesty, I still support, even with the narrative that's been presented, that you are simply eating too much. Now, what are you eating? This is interesting because they clearly equate that with not clearly not eating enough. But for me, I do think that that's a reasonable question to ask, especially if the patient is complaining of a lack of satiety, meaning that they're like consistently hungry. Eating whole foods and not pre-processed or packaged processed foods. Sorry about that. Packaged processed foods over whole foods makes a big difference with satiety levels. I almost never get hungry when I have like actual veggies and um like protein for a meal versus something from the freezer that I pop into the oven for 20 minutes, like pizza, a frozen pizza or something. A frozen pizza is going to have more calories and not fill me up for nearly as long as a potato with bell pepper and some cooked chicken, so like sautéed chicken. There we go. Like, it will be the chicken and the potato and the bell peppers will be less, or potentially, depending on how much I eat, even as much as that frozen pizza. But the potatoes, bell peppers, and chicken are going to keep me full for hours longer than the pizza will, because of the fiber that's in the veggies, because of the nutrients that I'm getting, because of the high quality protein that I'm getting. So I do think that it is worth, I think that if a morbidly obese person is continually coming in, it doesn't hurt to refer them to a nutritionist, because I do think that a lot of people with morbid obesity do need that help in finding, one, what's going to work for them, and two, how to adjust their eating habits in a way, and the way they eat in a way that is more conducive to their health and weight loss goals.
Because of something, not just make assumptions.
Yeah.
And yet here they are, 9 times out of 10, doing this on repeat to us, and then wondering why we fail. Again, we're set up for failure.
How do you win?
You don't.
I just found out recently, I see an amazing doctor in the Charlotte area who I now have Allie seeing. I soon will have Rebecca there. And I know
That is Maria.
I went backwards.
She's dyslexic. It's okay.
I'm dyslexic. I see an amazing doctor in the Charlotte area, and I got Allie seeing her, and you're coming next, Maria, and you're going to be soon after. And
yes, please.
And she's amazing. And she was the first person who actually told me that things that were showing up in my blood work for years were signs of malnutrition.
Oh, wow.
And I said, oh, shit.
She was the first one that, over the last year, I have had a very stressful year. Maria can tell you all about it, right? We've had some very similar years. And I lost a significant amount of weight in a very short time, unintentionally, right? And she was the first person who said, are you eating? Are you eating enough? I don't think you're eating enough.
Yeah.
Whereas every other doctor I went to, and I'm like, hey, I think something might be wrong.
Good job, sweetie. You're
Oh my
killing
God,
it. You're
Congratulations. Congratulations. I don't feel good and my hair is falling out. You're doing amazing, sweetie.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Keep up the good work, babe. And she's like, are you eating? And that was the first time that I had to really take stock.
Yeah.
And I actually just got upset a minute ago because some of the things that you were saying about feeling like the rumbles and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that I do that.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe we need to have a talk after this.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was the first one.
It's pretty crazy when somebody asks you that question. Like, so I started seeing a dietitian for issues. And the first thing she said to me was, why aren't you eating? And I was like, wait, what? why is that a thing? Like, why would I, what do you want from me? What? No. And it was so different. It was so weird.
You keep looking at me. I'm really gonna cry. I need you to look at Rebecca for a second.
I'm gonna look at the camera. But yeah, when somebody actually asks you about like, what is your lived experience versus what is our made up interpretation, or like whatever fits our own preconceived narrative.
Sees you as an individual human. Oh no. Like,
yeah, I'll look at you because you don't have emotions.
those things are the lock and key, baby. I'm ready.
Yes. But look at you as an actual human,
Yeah.
and take into consideration what you've actually experienced and what is happening in your life.
And it's such a rare experience.
Yeah.
That we're like, where are we?
What is happening?
Like a fucking human
Right.
being.
Then not only that, but so we go from that remarkable experience, right? We've whoa, that was crazy. That was earth shattering. Like, what was that? And then to take this high and go to like family members or friends, and you say, hey, I'm seeing a dietitian. And they're like, oh, great, you'll finally lose the weight.
Oh. Yes.
And it's such
Rage tears.
it's such a blow to your spirit, and it just like takes you down all those notches that you finally felt, because it's like, you are the people who are supposed to love me most. You are
Yeah.
the people who are supposed to see me for me, and you're not getting it.
Yeah.
You're not understanding.
Okay, to a certain extent, like I don't want to discredit their, because they clearly have a lot of feelings about this. And the whole are you eating thing, if you are experiencing rapid weight loss, which can cause the hair to fall out, like that, if you're like rapidly losing weight, that can cause your hair to fall out, at least temporarily. Once the weight equalizes, once you're eating more nutritiously and on a balanced diet and all that, it can come back. But like, if it clearly causes enough concern for it to be stressful and alarming to you, I do think that the doctors should honor that concern and talk you through it. With this group, I don't know whether I can say that the doctors did not walk them through it or something, because the fact acceptance group tends to hear what they want to hear, and if it's not exactly what they want to hear, then it is against them in some form or fashion. And I do wonder if that's what happened with these doctors and these women's experiences. Um, the whole thing about, going to see a dietitian and then you going to your family members and they're like, good, you'll finally lose the weight. It is a backhanded comment, especially if you're like, that is one of those things where it seems like something along the lines of what I've experienced before, not specifically about weight. Was actually about art and my work and being proud of something or being very happy about something, and then being deflated by either a lack of reaction or comments that were unhelpful. And for that, I can understand that deflation and that hurt. I can acknowledge that, and I I understand that disappointment and that hurt. I do. That being said, the dietitian, I would hope, would help you make choices that would help you lose weight. Because here's the thing, like, this isn't about treating or not treating you like a human being. As much as you guys want to say that your weight is genetic, it is not. It is based on how much you eat. And while you can have rapid weight loss, especially at your size, your collective sizes, that will cause your hair to fall out, depending on like how drastically your calorie restriction is. That does not mean that all calorie restriction will result in hair loss, that all weight will result in hair loss. And that does not mean that weight loss is inherently problematic for you because of that hair loss. It just means that maybe a difference of approach is warranted. I do think that in those cases that the dietitian is warranted to make sure that you're getting all of the nutrients that you need. Like, I do think that all of that was very much warranted. I just don't like this victimization of it's something that they can't help, and then when they're healing, when they're giving up the idea of losing weight, essentially, um that's when they're hurt. And I'm like, it doesn't really have to be an either or thing. Like, you can eat healthier, you can see a dietitian, and you can even up the amount of food that you're taking in and still end up lowering your calories because you're eating whole foods that have less caloric density. Like, there's far more nuance here than I think they're giving the conversation credit for.
And you can't even try and relate to my lived experience versus what you're still perceiving because of what society has told you all your life. Like, break the cycle. Somebody do it. Why is it us?
Oh, fuck off with that. Why does it have to be me? Why is it us? Why are we the one? Because you're the one that fucking cares, alright? And this whole thing with lived experiences, don't get me wrong. I do think to an extent lived experiences should be honored, but I often feel like lived experiences is used as a wall to protect people from criticism for their actions and for and as a way to deflect any differences of perspective of the same situation. And here is the thing, we all experience reality through our own lens. While I think an objective reality exists, functionally it does not. By and large, objective reality should not necessarily be put on the table as any sort of reasoning or anything because we all live reality through our own lens, right? So when someone is like, "Hey, I hear you, but from my perspective, this is from me looking from my perspective of reality. This is what I'm seeing." You can get a more full picture. You can get closer to that objective reality by listening to others. That doesn't mean you have to internalize everything that everyone says, but I think that deflecting other people's perspectives is as a and by claiming lived experiences is more a way of you avoiding the core issue rather than standing up for yourself or whatever the fuck that's supposed to be. Lived experiences do count. I'm not saying that they don't count, but I'm saying that I've heard an awful lot, especially from the FA, of, you're disregarding my lived experiences. I can honor your lived experiences and then still say, but I think that you're missing a key point here because the two are not mutually exclusive. Lived experiences can be honored while also taking a more holistic view of the situation. The truth is, I understand. You feel persecuted, you feel like you were not heard for a long time, and you feel like valid concerns, like the hair falling out, were disregarded in favor of a, in your viewpoint, an aesthetic ideal. But the truth is that weight does impact your health, and eating more nutritiously can help you lose weight, and those that love you can see your morbid obesity as an issue for your health, and they can express that care through wanting you to lose weight. It does not mean that you are persecuted, it does not mean that you are victimized. It can feel that way to you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what it is. Feelings are not always reality, and I don't it sounds gaslighty and I don't mean it that way. But we feel based on the our feelings are largely dictated by the information that we have at the time. The decisions that we make are based on on the information we have at the time. Everything, our reality is often shaped by the information that we currently hold. You may not hold all that information. You hell, we don't hold all that information. You don't have access to someone else's interiority and um, internal thoughts. So you can't necessarily say that they intended to do this. You don't have access to that information. You can make reasonable assumptions sometimes, often, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're always getting at it. Which is why I think that having a conversation rather than just writing them off would be better. Now, some people that's not necessarily an option, but I think my point still stands that it's not inherently that you were victimized, but I'm getting a lot of assumptions not only on their part but on yours as well. You assuming what they mean by certain comments when sometimes people are just, especially around family members, when we're like not full, like we're not in our social prime like we are in other social situations where we kind of have to be on. Around family and stuff, we tend to relax and say things, blurt things out. They don't go through the filter as much. and they aren't curated to be more palatable. So more offense can be taken and more conversations probably need to be had. So my question for you is, did you have conversations around those comments that upset you? Or did you jump straight into assuming and then creating a victim narrative for yourself?
Why is it us?
Yeah.
And it's so painful and it's so frustrating. Are you good?
No,
I'm
good.
sorry.
Well, it made me
I'm sorry.
wonder. No, it just made me wonder, like, when you got that, did that shape your experience with your dietitian? Like, did that make you feel like you had to go in and talk to them differently, or were you able to leave those opinions at the door?
I mean, it was hard
Yeah.
because then that makes me question everything. If everyone else has told me this, and now you're the one person that's like trying to steer me elsewhere, I'm like,
say
no,
louder.
you're wrong. You're wrong. Not everyone else. You are wrong.
Yeah, I have a lot of things to say, but I will let you hold the floor a little bit longer. But I do want to say that I was known in higher level of treatment for being combative.
Right.
I had, which I feel like maybe if you know me in real life, you'll be like, yeah, Alyssa, I bet you were aggressive. Like, I bet you were ready to throw hands. And like my therapist would be like, but why aren't you doing this? I'd be like, well, why do I have to do this? Like, you need to convince me.
Right.
Because you're the only person saying something different.
Right.
I am doing what every single doctor my entire life has told me to do. You're telling me something different.
Right.
So prove it. Let's
And yet,
go.
all those damn voices, it wasn't working out, right? Like,
Right.
how did
Right.
it serve me? How did it serve me to listen to all those voices, right?
But they're so loud, and
They
they're
are
from
so
the people
loud.
who love us the most. They're from our family. They're from our friends. They're from our teachers. They're from strangers.
I guess I don't know. Like, I genuinely want to hear your guys' perspective because, don't get me wrong, I understand the influence, but to become combative with someone that's saying something different than what you've heard before, to me that says that one, you let other people drive the narrative for yourself. Two, you don't stop and think for yourself so much, because I don't understand why you can't just take what they're saying, take some time to process it, and ask questions about it to more fully integrate the information. All information has at least a kernel of truth to it in most cases. I should say almost all information, because there are some like full on, especially in today's day and age, there's just some full on fucking lies and conspiracy theories. But when you're taking in something like this, both can be true. You may eat too many calories. So these things can all be true. You can be taking in so many calories that you are morbidly obese, but not eating enough, in that you're not eating enough nutritious foods to meet your nutritional requirements, which then can lead you to malnourished, even though you're eating a surplus of calories. It can also be true that you need to eat less in terms of eating fewer calories, but then to tie in the malnourished and lack of nutrients, you need more nutrient dense foods. All of that can work in the same world and can be reasoned out if you take a moment, take a breather, rather than being constantly defensive. Take a moment to absorb all the information and see how it works together and if there's anything that doesn't line up. This is how I've always kind of, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, well, look at me. Like, I feel like I'm gonna sound arrogant here, but this is how I've always functioned throughout the world. And is it perfect line of thinking? No, I've made some fucking mistakes, and I've let other people's influence over me override reasonable conclusions. But I feel like fewer mistakes are made if you try to take all of the information in and kind of compile it together into some sort of cohesion. Some stuff still isn't going to work, some stuff still isn't going to fit, and then from there you can tease out the issues with that. But there's ways to get a holistic understanding, and there's ways to take in all of the information and how it can all be true with higher levels of nuance. Not everything, I again want to say, not everything is always true all the time. That's not my point. Just that multiple pieces of information, when looked at critically and when dissected, it can all lead into a more overarching narrative that I feel like they are still missing.
They're from the internet. They're from magazines we see every day. They're from fucking media. Like, where are our people who are just saying, you can be it and you're fine. You're great exactly as you are, just because you are you and you exist now. And you're here and you're now. And
you deserve individualized treatment.
Right, and
you
where
deserve
is
information.
that?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it sucks. It
I
sucks
grabbed
so bad.
Odell. I know.
Like a little baby.
Allie's crying. I gotta tell you.
She never
The
lets me
most,
touch her.
the most raw and authentic thing that you said, which is why I wanted to do this episode so badly, was just feeling so unseen. I feel so unseen by diet culture and by the world that continues to push this narrative. You know, I've done horrible things to my body because I believed that it was my fault that I was fat, that I wasn't good enough because I was fat. I overcompensated in the craziest ways.
To a certain extent, and I want to be clear, I think that feeling like you weren't good enough because you were fat was at least in part tied into comments that you heard from family, things that you saw in pop culture and stuff, especially given that they're around my age. The whole Duff thing, designated ugly fat friend, was a thing when we were growing up. Like, get it. I understand that portion of it and how growing up around those things can create a narrative in your mind about you. I get that. It is your job to analyze those things and come to terms with them. It's a process, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the family did anything wrong per se. Like, for me, it's the coming to terms with I am average. When I was told all growing up I was so smart. In college, I had 4.0s, except for that one fucking class that dragged me down so fucking much because it was stupid. But that aside, like, in school, academically, I've always done really well. That does not translate as well to the real world. And there has been a learning curve for me in the real world. And that made me question my intelligence, which made me question my worth, because my worth was largely tied to my perceived intelligence. Because I was told so much as a kid that I was smart. Does that mean that my family and everyone else set me up for failure? No. It means that their best intentions led to an outcome that was not so desirable, and it took me a while to filter through that. Same can be said for your weight and how you perceive yourself and how you perceive your worth. I had weight issues growing up too, not like these guys though, and it took me a while to get over that. And I'm still not 100% over that, but what I've been able to pivot towards is, rather than worrying about thinness, is worrying about strength. I want to be very strong, and I want to be capable of, my big goal is being able to lift my own body weight if I needed to. That's what I'm working towards. And that creates much more neutrality when you're focusing on building strength, because the body is something that can be changed greatly based on habits. And it's all about figuring out the formula that achieves the body that you want. And I'm still finding that formula. A lot of people spend many years or decades finding that formula. And that's okay. But I don't think that the answer is just to be like, I can't change my body at all, so I'm just going to continue these habits that are hurting me.
Right? Like, of course your parents only do what they know, right? With the information they had. Of course I bet we were all on diets at very young ages. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but like middle school, I remember like seeing a dietitian who was only helping restrict my food and measure it out. And then you're learning like, oh, because I'm fat, I have to do this. My entire existence was around shrinking myself.
Right.
And it wasn't even, I think at that point, it wasn't even like because I'm fat. It was because I'm different, because I don't look like them.
Yeah.
Because I don't look like everybody else. It wasn't, it never really felt like it was about my health.
It's not. And it's still not about
It's
your
still
health.
not. It's
No, see, that's where we oh mm. It's still about your health. It can still be about your health. 100%. Morbid obesity does play into certain health outcomes, does contribute to certain health outcomes. So, your weight does play a role here. Your weight is something to be concerned about. Your weight is something to keep in mind, and your weight is something to manage. It can still be about your health, and it just needed to be approached a different way. Like, that bugs me.
still not.
It's never been about our health.
Thank you for that, because that brings me to my point. The one point that I had is going to pull me out of crying, hopefully. Because actually, there were things that you said and things that you said that I was like, I need to say this. So I actually read this yesterday, and it was like something that I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad this popped up. So there is something called I looked up how to say it, Semmelweis effect.
Yes.
And if I said that wrong, I'm very sorry. It's
Should we
called
trust you?
The Semmelweis effect.
Okay. Them's a fighting words, girl.
We needed a moment.
First things first.
You absolutely killed me.
I'm being bullied.
Best time. He's like, wait, can we trust you? That was great. Okay, love that. We'll double check later. Okay, so the Semmelweis effect. So basically, what it is the human behavioral tendency to stick to pre-existing beliefs and to reject fresh ideas that contradict them, despite adequate evidence. Basically, where that comes into play here is that there is now adequate evidence that being fat does not automatically make you unhealthy. Does not automatically mean you're going to die at 40 years old.
Correct.
Does not automatically.
Okay, I think that they are taking. So yeah, does being fat automatically make you unhealthy? That depends on our definition of unhealthy. That's the number one thing, is what is our definition of unhealthy? It doesn't mean that you're automatically going to die at 40. Very true. But left unchecked, it is taxing on the body to be morbidly obese. And left unchecked, it can lead to health complications that can lead to early death. So this feels like a very ham-fisted presentation of the evidence. It's lacking nuance, and it lacks, I think, it lacks honoring the spirit of what their critics say about them.
Mean that you're going to get diabetes, you're going to get a heart attack, like all these things.
It also has nothing to do with the food you eat.
Yeah.
Fucking what? No! Wrong! That's so fucking... It has nothing to do... Even by your own fucking metrics of what people have actually presented. Exercise and diet play a role in your weight. There's some arguments about how much genetics is involved, and how much your environment is involved, and how much stress is involved, and all of that fucking shit. And that's you want to get into the nuances of that, we can get into the nuances of that another time. I don't have we're 40 minutes in. I still have another 12 minutes that I want to get through on this video before we close it out. And I mean 12 minutes of the podcast. But if you want to get into the nuances of that, that can be talked about. But to say that food has nothing to do with your weight is just fucking bonkers. It sounds like cope. It sounds like rationalization. It sounds like absolute bullshittery that is playing into the exact thing that Allie was just talking about. There is presentation of evidence. Far more evidence than anything that supports the claim that you just made. That eating, how much you eat affects your weight. Holy fucking shit.
All of these things that have been proven, that have been studied, that have been researched.
There is no proven. There is suggestion. It's been proven. You want to go fucking that route? Let's compare lists of fucking studies. For fuck's sake, and then we can take a look into the methodology of each one and see which ones are truly valid and all of that shit if you want to go into it. I mean, we can. I don't. That sounds like a shit ton of work I don't really want to do, but we can fucking do it if we need to. What do you mean proven? What the fuck do you mean proven? Show me. Show me where it says fucking I fucking hate when they're like, it's been proven. No, it fucking hasn't. There is nothing in science that is proven. There are things that have reached a level of being so thoroughly studied and being shown over and over consistently that it is accepted as a fact. But the issue with that accepted as a fact statement is that it can still be changed because it is accepted as a fact based on the information that you have now. That acceptance of that fact can change with more evidence. You saying it's proven suggests that even if more evidence is presented later, you'll be like, no, it was proven. Proven doesn't really exist in science. It doesn't really exist in science. Proven doesn't really exist in general. It's something that we use to say there is more than there is like a negligible amount that it could be wrong, but even by that, you are fucking wrong. You are so fucking wrong. You are only looking at the materials that you want to believe. And you're not taking a look at the holistic concept. I am willing to accept that body weight is not 100% diet and exercise. I can get behind that because there are thyroid disorders that can contribute to it. There's certain metabolic disorders that can contribute to it. There are stress can fuck up your was it ghrelin or lipin or Lipton or no, not Lipton. Lipton's a tea. Lipin, something like that. There's certain hormones that regulate your hunger, and stress can disrupt that hormone production. Totally can get behind that, and that can make you eat more. That still ends up bringing it down to intake, which I think is true. But there's nuance of factors in that. We can totally talk about the nuance of factors in weight gain, but it has not been proven that food does not affect your weight. That is such fucking bonkers. I want to see where this was fucking proven because holy fucking shit.
And there's still so many doctors and just in the diet industry, in the medical industry, in so many spaces that refuse to do the work to say, okay, what I used to know is not right anymore.
Holy shit, this holier than fucking thou attitude is pissing me off. So, doctors, as a whole, most doctors from your fucking point of view have not done their research. I'm sorry, what medical school did you go to? Where have you done your residency? Genuinely. This sounds like a flat earth fucking conspiracy of like geologists don't know what they're talking about. If they actually took time to observe the earth, they would realize that it was flat. That's what you sound like. Holy shit. I'm actually like really pissed off about this.
So let me learn something new. They're literally doing this. They're like, I'm good with what I learned.
Yep.
It's like,
Do you think that maybe they've taken a look at it and there's issues with the methodology or issues with anything else? Like, okay, so during the summer, I take Benadryl every night for my allergies. All right? Benadryl is diphenhydramine. And there was a study like 5 years ago, single study, about how diphenhydramine can lead to early onset. It was either dementia or Alzheimer's. Like it can either cause it or it's but the issues with the study was that they could not determine whether the one led to the other, or those that had Alzheimer's and dementia were just more likely to also have allergies that led to the diphenhydramine use. There were some things that just warranted further study. Not that it was wrong, but that more study needed to be done. This is what my doctor explained to me when they're like, I can't say for sure, I can't tell you that it won't be harmful to you, but here are the issues I have with that study. You can integrate it and still be skeptical about it. It is something to be considered when if you are going to use it long term. But the evidence, while interesting, is not reaching to the point of acceptability for me. So, do you think that maybe any of that could apply to your situation? Do you think any of that applies to the evidence that you present about weight gain not having anything to do with what you eat? My God, this holier than thou thinking that you know better than people that have spent literal years in school for this profession and in the profession itself. I just, holy shit.
Then why are you a doctor?
Right.
Why are you a doctor? What did you
There's new medical advances every day.
every day?
And those they'll take into consideration, but they won't go back and study this. But also, here's why. People don't want to feel like everything they've put themselves through wasn't worth it.
Oh,
And so for us to live differently, be differently,
Again, if I were holding
be
this, I would drop
happy
it.
in our bodies as we are, it goes against that.
Yeah.
If you've hated yourself all your life for 50 years,
So fucking condescending. This is like, I am getting so fucking angry. I might have to stop this early because I don't want to be a raging bitch to them. And I don't want this to go outside of reasonable critique and into just hating them. But I feel like I'm going to reach that point if I listen to this too much longer. So we're going to keep listening for a little bit longer. I'm going to say less. And anything, especially if I think I'm going to just be ranting and screaming. We're going to listen to them for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to end the video.
I just got to lose that last 20 pounds and then I'll be okay. I just got to do this. I just got to change that. And then we're here living loudly and just existing happily. It's like, no, how dare you?
How dare you?
Yeah. And I understand it. I mean, it's sad that they couldn't find a place to just be and it just exist and accept themselves as they are. And if there's small little changes you want to do because of your health or because of whatever, you can do those. We're not telling you not to, but we're just saying that you're perfect as you are too. And you don't have to change. You're human.
And we see you.
Yeah.
We see you. There was a point that you made that jogged up something for me that you had said. And I know that we're going to talk about this on a different episode, but the overcompensating.
oh
The
yeah.
overcompensating.
Oh, I was definitely
that-
hinting at that.
100% is, I think, something that we all have felt, and I know that you specifically have written notes about. Like,
Yeah.
can you speak to that a little bit, like, in just as it applies to this, and then
Yeah,
we'll
I'm trying to
go
think, like, does it apply to this for me? You know, I think I overcompensate maybe, you know, when we originally talked about this idea, it was through the perspective of hiding.
Yeah.
And I don't know, again, that I connect these things with eating. I more so connect it with feelings of being worthy and feelings of adding to places.
right.
So I'm not sure. I can't mentally get there. Sorry, no.
No,
Nope,
that's okay.
can't get there.
That's okay.
Well, I think I can. So
Please.
when it comes to overcompensating, I think the reasons why some of us went so hard and had such black and white thinking is because we had to do it. We had to do it perfectly because we are who we are. We look the way that we do. So if I'm eating the normal 2,000 calories a day, oh, don't do that. Don't do that because you're fat. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So we dove so far into the other side of it because we had to. Because that was the only way to change
Yeah.
and to be like everyone else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think like where it shows up for me, or where it did show up for me, and again, we will talk about that. We're gonna do a whole episode about how we hid, you know, but I have been in this like perpetual state of burnout because I spent my whole life trying to overcompensate for my bad body, for being bad, because I truly thought that I was bad. I was bad.
This all comes back to that moment when you licked the spoon and you didn't know how many calories it counted for. That's why you're bad.
Very bad. Very bad.
Yeah, I was thinking about this because, you know, whenever Maria and y'all were like all getting emotional, Maria's like, I'm gonna look at you because you don't have emotions. And I was sitting here thinking, like, listening to y'all talk about people. And one, I don't know, it's both what I consider a superpower of mine and also a great weakness is I detach. And so, like, I was thinking, like, yes, I've gone into doctor's offices and had those moments. Of course, since having weight loss surgery, I just went and saw my sleep apnea doctor to get readjusted for a different pressure. And he hadn't seen me since before surgery. And he's talking to me about, like, I'm sitting there saying, like, I'm not sleeping well. I need this, I need that. And he's like, well, I haven't seen you in a year and a half. I see you've lost a lot of weight. Congratulations. Like, we had no human conversation, and yet he still made a comment about the weight loss. Yep. And I get that having had weight loss surgery, that then tells someone I wanted the weight loss, right? And so they feel the natural response is to congratulate me. But we had no human connection, you know, and he said it to me, and all I did was feel numb. I don't feel things in response to people saying things about my body. And I don't feel it when they say positive things about my body. I don't feel it when they say negative things about my body, when they mischaracterize my body, when they say things about my eating. I'm aware, like, especially when we've been doing these food series, that since having had the surgery and people knowing about it, that I might have extra eyes on me, like, oh, you had that surgery and you're still eating a chili cheese dog, or, you know, you did this, why'd you do that, and then you're now having this. And the thing is, like, I'm aware of those comments because I see them said to other people who have had weight loss surgery. So, like, I know them as like common criticisms. It's almost like, again, once people publicly know you've had it, then your food intake is up for discussion. And yet, even though I'm aware of it, I feel so numb towards it. And I think there's something in my spirit that, like, absolutely rebels anyone having any say on who I am as a person. Like, unfortunately and fortunately, because in one way it saves me from feeling deep emotions. On the second hand, I just don't allow myself to be affected by people, positively or negatively. You know, like, I just refuse to be affected by people. And that means I have walls up like nobody's business, you know, as a protective measure. And then I'll be like, I'll also at the same have a very deep-seated need to be understood, and yet feel like no one can understand me.
I think we all feel that way, though. I think we can all relate to that one.
Yeah.
Like, I think as fat women in general, I think we often feel very misunderstood, or that no one gets us because they don't take the time to, or try to, because they have all these preconceived notions.
Yeah, I put very little trust in anyone, in any single person. And even if I feel like
I'm
someone
very
gets
offended right now.
listen. And the thing is, it's like, I've given you a lot of trust, right? And there's probably still an inkling where I maybe still don't feel fully understood by anybody. You know, this is just a chip on my shoulder. I'm going to carry on until I maybe go
I will
freaking
keep
therapy.
chipping at that chip until it's gone.
And I
Or
need
until
that
I eat it.
persistence.
You know what I will tell you, though? I will.
Damn, Maria.
I will tell you though, Rebecca, that for someone who's able to, that says that, you know, you have no emotions or whatever, and you're closed off. For someone who's able to openly say that I'm very sensitive, because I am too.
What?
It takes a lot to be able to be self-aware of being sensitive and being able to openly say I'm a very sensitive person.
Yeah.
Because also that also ties back into our whole lives of having to be of having to have that, like, that armor up, right? Of having to take a joke. It's, I'm just joking. I was just, why are fat girls so angry?
Right. I know it wasn't said directly to me, but it's still in a space that I'm in, that I occupy. And so I'm just supposed to, like, take it. Or, hey, I've put this kind of trust in you, and yet you're still saying that. So does that mean you understand me actually? Do you get it or not? Or is this just something that we're playing to my face?
Yeah. Like, do you actually care? Today, like, I had a really good day with my mom. And then we got home and my mom showed me a picture she was like, oh my God, I found this picture while I was going through some boxes. And it was her and one of her cousins and like some friends like sitting around a table when she was a kid. And she was like, look at that outfit I have on. It's danskin. My mother always put me in danskin. She always put me in danskin. And I was like, oh my God, I just thought she looked cute. She just looked like a little girl with her friends. Same breath. I look like 2-ton Tessie. And I just, again, I literally, before we started this podcast, really like, and this is not a slight against my mom, because I know my mom grew up in the same society that, you know, was telling her, you know, have the 2 cigarettes, a glass of wine, and go to bed, right? Like the whatever. No, I think that was probably her mom's generation, but it's still just like, I didn't really realize, because I used to say that like, oh, my mom never really made me feel any type of way about my body, but I didn't realize
It's subliminal. It's in everything.
Yeah, and until, again, it's one of those things that we've said this before. Once you hear it, you can't not hear it.
Yeah.
And we were tuned into those words in a different way. We were accepting of them.
Yeah.
And now they grate against our belief system, so we hear it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I just wanted to be like, Mom, before you said that, all I saw was a happy little girl with her cousin and her friends.
Mm-hmm. And I wish you could see that.
And I wish you could see that.
Mm.
That's so sad for her.
I wish society could see that.
Right.
Is just a happy little girl with her friends. Is just a happy adult woman
with her friends,
living her life, not fucking bothering anybody just because her body looks different.
Yeah.
Unfucking believable.
Don't do it. I see you.
Stop it, Reba. Turn it on. Turn on the accent, and everything will be fine. I'm giving you permission.
I think she's ready to talk.
I don't think our listeners are ready for that.
But one day you will get the pleasure.
You know, eating disorders are, they're first and foremost a mental health issue,
Right.
you know? I actually have a crazy statistic that I brought with me from the Alliance for Eating Disorders, which is that eating disorders have the second highest mortality rate among all psychiatric illnesses, with someone dying every 52 minutes as a direct result from an eating disorder.
52
Every
minutes.
52 minutes, which is why I say that this is a bigger issue than I think people are educated about. And
Liz, how long have we been recording?
Someone died.
Wow.
fuck, Allie. Sorry, I didn't know why you were asking that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, eating disorders, we spend so much time talking about food. And eating disorders actually have very...
They're trying not to cry.
I know, it's okay.
All right, I've had enough. We're reaching an hour. Sorry, there actually wasn't a whole lot to say for the last 10 minutes, and I've calmed down. And there's just so much arrogance in this podcast. I need a break. We'll definitely be doing a part 3 for this one and finishing up what they're saying. Like, I genuinely, especially, for those last 10 minutes, I really want to hear what your opinion was. Let's have a conversation down in the comments section, because holy fuck. I'm going to try to get this, despite how long this is, I'm going to try to get this up about midweek in the hopes that we can have, like, a good conversation while I break, because holy fuck. When it comes to my, manhwa reading and stuff, I've just recently, like, in the past 2 days, been able to finally, like, start catching up on everything, so I'll have more to say next time. I do want to say next video, I'm probably going to I signed up for Substack, and I think that might be a place where I start dumping some of my opinions and reviews on manhwa. If you're interested, please let me know if you're interested in any of that in the comments down below. It's just going to be the Substack would be kind of a dumping ground for everything that I do. So, curious to know what your opinions are on that. My garden is coming along for the most part. fucking bees and wasps everywhere in my yard, which I'm not happy about. I want to know where the fucking wasps are coming from because I'm not happy about it. And they keep going into my fucking greenhouse. I don't want them in my greenhouse. So, interested to hear about all of that. I'm trying a couple mosaic kits for my week off, and then I have some leather crafting kits that I really want to work on as well. So, just a week full of crafting and relaxation ahead for me. Let me know how your week has been or is going, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves.